It's interesting because, like, insofar as I would be inclined to debate this, I would more be inclined to debate the propriety of government sting operations. And you're in like a little bit of a different position, right? You have some level of collaboration with the government, but my critique, in as much as I've leveled one, is more about government orchestrators of sting operations.
Well, the reason why I still agree with them is because the methods aren't too different. I mean, it's still the same thing. Like they
When
still
you
have
have
to
the
be
power of
method.
the state, when you're operating with the power of the state, it's just a different dynamic.
Well, well, in the end, like the state's the one that the state's the entity that prosecutes our guys, and I still have to go
Sure,
to
sure.
court, testify against them. And I mean, shoot, like the state still has to say what their age is. The guy, I promise you, would not have been arrested if he was not told that the person was 15 that he was talking to. And the
Well, yeah,
state,
let's go through that Israeli guy. It's an
okay,
interesting kind of case study. So, you say you promised me that he wouldn't have been arrested if he hadn't been told what the fake girl's age was.
there's
Um,
zero doubt
but
in my
but
mind.
did you read the arrest report?
I did not.
Okay, we should read the arrest report. If anybody's curious, go to my Substack. I did a little article on this yesterday, and I did read the arrest report, and it's very interesting how they word things in that arrest report. Because you would think, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Actually, it's sort of interesting. You have much more experience, I guess, than I do, so you can tell me if this comports with your experience. You would think if there was solid proof in a chat log or anywhere that
Hmm?
this guy was directly explicitly told by the decoy that quote unquote she was 15 years old, that would have been recorded in the police report. But they make no mention of that in the police report. They make no assertion that this guy had knowledge that this decoy was purportedly 15 years old. Instead, they say that this decoy was quote acting as a 15-year-old or was quote posing as a 15-year-old. They never specifically state that this decoy communicated directly to the guy that she was purportedly 15. So that just seems like a very conspicuous omission to me, especially if that evidence did exist. Because if it did exist, why wouldn't they include it in the arrest report?
Well, to me, that just sounds like it's implied that it was said if they're acting as a 15-year-old.
But
Like,
why rely on an
did
implication? Why not just say it outright? I mean, you can't just
well,
like
did
imply
they
things in
show
a legal
did they
proceeding.
show every single chat log from the thing? Obviously, they didn't, right? So I mean,
No, we don't have the
even
chat logs.
of course. So even the sexual chat logs where he's like, or the guy's probably like, I want to have sex with you. I'll bring a condom.
You say
That's not it.
probably. We
That's
don't
not
know. We don't have the transcripts.
well, exactly. But that's discovery. That's discovery for the pedo, man. That's not public information right now.
Well,
Like
in the
even
in the
even
arrest
on
in the
ours,
arrest report in the arrest report, and I'll send you the link if you want.
yeah,
Um, I'll pull it up. In the arrest report, the so first he's interviewed by the Henderson, Nevada police, and then he's
right,
interviewed again by the FBI and DHS investigators.
right.
And in that second section, the the Israeli guy, is recorded to have said that he believed this girl was 18 because it listed her age as 18 on the app. And indeed, this particular app, I don't know if you have an experience with it, Pure. There is an
I'm aware of it.
there is a requirement, like it's expressly prohibited that anybody below 18 be allowed to use the app. And they even have what seems to me like fairly rigorous age verification procedures where you have to submit government documents. So a 15-year-old would not be permitted to use this app by the terms of service. And so like you couldn't have a profile, I wouldn't think, with a girl where the age pops up as 15 because 15-year-olds are not allowed on the app. So I mean, this guy, for all we know, could be correct that the age was displayed as 18, right?
Right. So on the profile, especially on a dating app, the age will be displayed as 18 or higher. But in the actual messages, I'm making a Pure account right now, and it's not making me submit any ID. But um, let me see. Yeah,
If
but
you go to the Pure website, it spells out their age verification policy.
well, their policy is different from practice. Sometimes
Okay.
and so on Pure, there's also a thing where you can hide your age. So I just put on my Pure account that I'm 24 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and let me see. Just, clicking all the heights here. Actually, as a matter of fact, I can just screen record this whole thing. But you're able to hide your age on the app. So I know on Grindr too, you can also hide your age. See, I just made my account now. It did not ask for my ID or anything like that. And that's how kids are able to get on, because they can just put any
But
age.
hold on, is there maybe another step you have to take to actually become active? Like you haven't uploaded your photos and stuff, right?
Correct. So let me try to publish something. It all starts with words. Write your bio.
I just sent you the link to the arrest report.
All right.
They call it Declaration of Arrest, which seems like it might be Henderson, Nevada specific or Nevada specific.
Yeah. I'm just writing a bunch of crap on here. Publish and feed.
I admit I did not attempt to create a pure account to
yeah, no, I would.
I'm not interested. I'm personally not interested in having a pure account.
Yeah, no, I can't blame you. But yeah, no, I mean, there's no. I just put my bio. I could put a photo on. I put a photo on there too. Like, there's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing. I just put that I'm 24 years old. I'm 25, and I put that I'm 5'9". I'm 6'4". Yeah, there's no verification on there. It's kind of like Whisper from what I understand. You can just kind of put anything you want on there. So that's how a kid is able to get on there. And you see it with Grindr too. I mean, you see a decent amount of news stories saying this 12-year-old, this 14-year-old met this guy off Grindr. And obviously Grindr, you do not have to show ID, even though the age might have to show 18, but you can also hide that.
Okay, let's say it's possible to maybe hide your age, or that an underage person could theoretically lie about their age and still get on this app. Do you think it's nonetheless fair to say that a person using this app could fairly presume that they're engaging on an adults-only app? I mean, if you look at the terms of service on this particular app, Pure, it's like adamant, multiple sections. This is an adult-only app, over and over and over and over again. Yeah, sure. Is it possible that fine, but just in terms of like the initial presumption for an average user, they could fairly presume, right, that they're engaging on an app that's for adults.
Right. So look, there is no
like, this is not the Russian website that you sent me.
Correct. So, but look, the whole point is that anybody can get on these apps. I mean, shit, I think even, I don't know if Roblox is 13 up, but I mean, we all watch R-rated movies as a kid. We all played Call of Duty as kids. You know what I mean? So, and those were clearly not for kids. The whole point is kids can easily access these apps. So it's not Pure's fault that a kid can get on their app. I mean, they can only do so much about it. But
they might be liable for it, actually. If I could see them being civilly liable if there's some harm done to some underage person as a result of their failure to enforce their age verification policies.
I mean, I get it, but they're not inviting
kids on the app. Which is why they're so strenuous about proclaiming their policies.
Right, and that's good on them. But the point, and the whole thing is, though, it's irrelevant whether Pure has a policy or not. Like, there's no statute, there's no word, there's no line in the statute that says this can only be done when there's no age verification on the app, or when there's an age verification on the app. So it doesn't matter if the site is for 18 up. As long as the person believes he's talking to a 15-year-old, which, according to the probable cause statement, it looks like he did believe he was talking to a 15-year-old. I mean,
the Israeli guy?
Acting as a 15-year-old.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It's like weasel wording. Acting as a 15-year-old. What does that even mean? Like, I don't know what it means.
I know exactly how this went down. So the purpose of the undercover operation, in this case, application platform was Pure, and later WhatsApp with phone number, to identify individuals who are involved with sexual exploitation. So what definitely happened is he hits her up on Pure, and immediately a phone number. How do
he hits her up? They don't even say who initiated the quote conversation. She could have initiated it, right?
So there's this thing called Internet Crimes Against Children, which they have certain standards which cops have to follow with the chatting. And one of those standards is the first message has to come from the perpetrator. It cannot come from the decoy account. And
so if that's the case, why wouldn't they say in the arrest report that he's the one who initiated the exchange? I don't get it.
Because a probable cause statement is not the same thing.
It's not a probable cause statement. It's an arrest report.
No, this is the probable cause statement. Like, I understand.
He had already been arrested.
Say again?
He had already been arrested. So they already established probable cause to arrest him.
Right. No, the whole thing is like why they had, the whole thing is explaining their probable cause. So it says details of probable cause. This is the probable
Okay,
cause
yeah,
statement.
okay, you're right. Yes, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So yeah, no. So it's not going to show the full chat logs in there. So when our guy so say we have a guy that gets arrested for child porn, right? So our guy Juan Rios we caught in Terrell, Texas, a couple days ago, sex offender with child porn. He got arrested for child porn before they dumped his phone because he admitted orally to us and the cops that he had child pornography on his phone. So that's a probable cause arrest. So in that probable cause statement, they're not going to have the whole phone dump ready to go. They're not going to say like, well, he had 42 images of a juvenile, 3 videos of one. They're just going to say he admitted to this to multiple parties. It's on camera and all
But
this.
this guy, they're not in this arrest report. They don't say this guy admitted to anything. They in fact say that he believed that she was 18 based on her profile displaying that she was 18.
Did they say the profile displayed it was 18?
They say that he said that the profile that she was 18, and I don't know how it would even be possible, given the restrictions of the app, for somebody to pop up with a profile that says they're 15. That wouldn't be allowable on the app.
Right. So what happened is either there was no age that popped up, or either they just had 18 on the profile. But regardless, he was told, because acting
hold on a second.
Acting as a 15-year-old. Okay, look, man. Probable cause implies that there's just a 51% chance a crime was committed, and they're explaining they believe a crime was committed because we were acting as a 15-year-old. This guy showed up to our profile and brought condoms. It's not the whole discovery. I mean, this is not the discovery of the case. This is not everything they have on him. I mean, they have
the burden's on the government to provide evidence. I mean, if we're all gonna scream that an Israeli pedophile fled the United States, and that's not
right. No, I understand, but evidence isn't immediately provided just to the public. I mean, they're going to give this guy the discovery on him, and then the whole point of
I got to see the evidence in order to conclude that something that the government claims is true. I apply that as a journalistic standard to anything
that's what.
does.
Well, that's what the court dates are for, and that's the whole thing that's going to be shown at court. So he's going to have his preliminary hearing at some point, and that's when the whole chat logs are going to be read through, because I would know, because I've testified in multiple preliminary hearings with this stuff. That's when they're going to go through every single message and say, okay, judge, right here it says we said we were 15. And at that point, the phone dump is going to be done, and it's going to verify that was the message. There's going to be phone records because they've seized his phone at this point. And whichever chatter's phone or chatter's profile, they're going to have access to that as well. And all those messages are going to be verified. And that's when, that's when basically that's when, like, all the evidence is presented in court. Then obviously trial potentially, but these people almost never go to trial. I've had to testify maybe at like 3 or 4 trials out of hundreds of convictions that we have.
3 or 4 out of, so like what percentage of your total stings that you've done have you ended up having to testify in a trial? Like less than 1%?
Yes, yeah. It's very.
Has there ever been an acquittal in anything that you've been involved in?
No. I mean, look, there's been usually when shit gets dropped, which is pretty rare, it's because the prosecutors are just apprehensive to take up something from a private citizen. But it has actually in court. There's nothing that's going to happen. There's nothing that happens because our evidence was bullshit.
So in the cases that did go to trial and you testified, all those defendants were found guilty?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's fucking, and the jury only deliberated for a very short time. I mean, it's a freaking bloodbath for them.
But there have been cases where charges have been dismissed or not filed, etc.
Yeah, no, not everybody gets arrested even. But I'll say there's one where a case got thrown out because I was told the day before to show up to Pennsylvania. And this was a couple of years ago. Basically, I was like texting the detective all week. I'm like, do I have to go? Wasn't court date. Then I get told like less than 24 hours before that I got to be 21 hours away from home. And even with all the flights and everything,
your home base?
Houston, Texas.
Okay.
So even if I got like a plane ticket and everything, I still would not have been there at like 9:30 or 10:30 in the morning the next day. So that unfortunately got thrown out, which I thought was total freaking bullshit. But other than that,
let me ask you this. So let's say we don't have the full facts. I would like to have all the facts for sure.
Yeah.
But let's say let's stipulate, just for the sake of argument, right, that what happened here with this Nevada situation is that the decoy makes a profile on the Pure app, and it does display on her profile that she's 18, with the idea being that once a communication is initiated, she will then convey in some way to the guy that she's actually 15 rather than 18. But initially,
Right.
her displayed age is in fact 18. Is that a tactic you would employ?
If we can help it, we would not deploy it. So I'm trying to think. Unless the app specifically makes us have an age on there, which Pure does not do and Grindr does not do, then we would not employ that. No, we would not. But I
And why
will
not?
also say, why? Well, we don't want there to be any gray area, not at all. And so having 18 on there, it is definitely a gray area. But I'll say we've heard that excuse from almost every pedo initially. So even when they break down, submit to everything, their first answer is, well, I saw 18 on the profile, even though they were on Instagram or something, where your age does not have to be on the
Right,
profile.
but we're stipulating
So
here that the age of 18 actually was displayed on the profile. So it's not just something that they made up as an excuse.
where do you see that?
Well, I'm saying, like, for the sake of argument, we're stipulating that that's what actually occurred here with the Pure app, because people who are below the age of 18 are not allowed on the app. So I'm just struggling to
Right,
understand
but I'm
technically
saying,
how a
but
15-year-old would be able to make it an account and have her age be displayed as 15 on her profile.
well, no, you can't display the age as 15, but there's an option to hide your age. So
Is
even though I
there?
have 24 on my profile, my age is hidden right now. So when you go to my profile, there's no age on there.
Okay.
So
Can you click and then see the age?
no, it's hide age means that your age is not viewable to any profile looking at yours.
Okay, I'm taking your word for this because I've never used this app.
Here, I wish I knew how to use the Nest, but let me see.
I think you use it by so you basically tweet a reply to the tweet that pops up when you first started the space. Like if you,
Yeah, I did that earlier, but like I don't know
I've actually never used the Nest. I don't really understand what it is.
exactly. Yeah, well, shit. I guess well, I don't
But
know.
okay,
Whoever's watching,
I guess what I'm trying to get at here is that what you seem to be acknowledging is that there could be some gray area, potentially, anyway, in terms of how the government seems to have potentially approached this operation, at least insofar as they could have deployed a tactic that you would not deploy because you don't want to even give the potential appearance of a gray area.
well, see, that's all speculation though, because
Yeah, we don't have
there's a
all
chance they
cameras.
could have, but there's a chance I could be completely just bullshitting you about all of our busts that I've mentioned so far. But the whole point is, in court, it'll be shown whether there is a gray area or not. I personally think that they hid their age because how can you be so retarded not to? But have you read the other arrest reports from that night or the other probable cause statements? Because I guarantee you they're going to look very similar to his.
I haven't located the other arrest reports. Do you have them?
I don't, but I bet you that's not only his arrest report. I'm sure in every single one, because it's pretty much the same scenario in each case. I bet you they put acting as a 15-year-old rather than we told him we were 15 at this time. Now, when he gets the actual police report slash discovery, that's when it'll say I was posing as a minor. I told him I was 15 at this time on this date. That's not going to be shown on probable cause report. Because me reading
Why
that probable
not?
cause
Wouldn't that be much more inculpating? Like if there was like just a definitive chat exchange in which the decoy said, "I'm 15" to the guy, like that would be much more inculpating
statement.
of him in terms of establishing criminal intent.
No, I'm sure there is that. Why they wouldn't include that in the probable cause report, I don't know. But the probable cause just shows me, like me reading that, I'm like, okay, he probably committed a crime. That's what probable cause is. Now, probably committed a crime is not going to hold up in an actual, in the courtroom. That's just to
Right.
get him arrested. What's going to be shown in the courtroom is a lot more than just, we were acting as a 15-year-old. Like there's going to have to be proof of that. But the probable cause thing is just from what the cops' perspective, what they believe. So when our guy gets arrested for child porn, like I said a few days ago, the cops believe he had child porn because he straight up admitted it in front of everybody. And of course, he's a sex offender for child porn, so it makes sense. So, but obviously, when if say this guy Juan Rios that we caught is dumb enough to take it to court, which he's definitely not going to, if they just played our video of him saying he has child porn, but then showed none of the contents of what's on his phone, then he would get found not guilty and or it would get thrown out. So we had enough for a probable cause arrest or to facilitate a probable cause arrest that day before they even looked through his phone just because of his admissions. But at a certain point, pretty soon, there's going to be more than his admissions that are needed. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not familiar with the specifics of your individual cases. I've just been looking into
I'm
it. So,
I'm saying it's the
yeah,
same
yeah, I get
thing.
you.
Like,
Well,
yeah.
let me read. So this is I'm reading directly now from the arrest report. This is the portion where Alexandrovich is his name. His statements to the FBI and DHS investigators are recorded. So he agreed consensually, which was probably dumb. Although, most lawyers would advise their clients if they've been under arrest not to just freely speak to the FBI.
If you're a pedo,
Um,
speak to everybody you possibly can, please.
well, I mean, actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, the fact that he did freely speak to the FBI and DHS could potentially indicate at least his own perception of like genuine innocence, because otherwise, why even open yourself up to the risk of further incriminating yourself by talking to the FBI?
Yeah,
I'm
dude.
just saying it's possible. It's possible. Let me just tell you. Let me quote the report. Okay, he
Okay,
says
go ahead.
Alexandrovich stated he agreed to go to dinner and a show with a date. Alexandrovich stated he believed the girl was 18 years old. That was the age listed on the pure application. So I guess my question to you would be, what odds do you assign to his statements there being correct? Is it a 0% chance? Is it a 1% chance?
No, there's a chance 18. There's a chance. There's a good chance 18 could have been shown on the profile. I wouldn't do that personally, but that still doesn't change the fact that I believe from reading that Alexandrovich thought he was going to meet a 15-year-old. I mean, that guy. A lot of these people talk just to try to work themselves out of it. I noticed that the very, very, very smart ones tend to not talk for obvious reasons because they know like anything can and will be used against me. And the very, 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 very dumb ones also don't talk because they're like, I got hacked. It's bullshit. And they just kind of walk off. Now, someone like Alexandrovich, who's definitely a smart dude, but not somebody. I mean, he's not some super genius, but he's a smart dude. People like
He's
that will
intelligent
try
enough
to.
where he works for the Israeli National Cyber Directorate or something. So he's got
Yeah,
to have some intelligence.
government employees are midwits. He can't be that smart if he's a government employee. So,
Well,
um,
I'd be curious. Maybe we should hope. Maybe they can file his IQ test for discovery, so we can know exactly how smart he is.
yeah, but people like that, they will try to talk themselves out of a situation. So you say like, well, he had to have thought he was innocent if he talked. Not necessarily. We
No,
just had a guy in
I'm just
San.
speculating. I don't know. I'm just saying it's a
Okay.
possibility.
Well, I'm telling you that people have admitted to me as recently as 2 or 3 days ago that they're actively molesting kids slash have molested kids in the past couple months. Named who those kids are, where it happened, when it happened, and all of that stuff. Their kids' age and everything. Just thinking that they were going to talk themselves out of a bigger consequence. So a lot of it is kind of leveraging. Like if you don't talk to us and you don't say what happened, it's going to go a lot worse. Now, obviously, we can't just say that to them, um, but we definitely imply it because, I told this guy in San Antonio, Warren Baker, who we caught, who admitted to molesting his goddaughter, who I have to go in 2 days, go back to San Antonio, that area, and just go do a formal police interview with them now because of it. Um, I was basically telling you, look at him in the eye, saying that we already talked to his goddaughter, which was not true, and this is what she was saying. And then he ended up coughing up that he, ended up fingering her pretty much and sexually
How
assaulting
often,
her.
out of curiosity, how often is it the case that one of these guys who you zero in on is engaging in child sex predatory behavior with a family member, whether it's a goddaughter or somebody like in their intimate circle, meaning not just a stranger that they meet someplace?
Yeah, well, it's extremely high because I say that I mean it's not over 50%, but it's like a very, very good number of them. It's a big chunk. And that's just what we know though. That's just what they admit to. Like I say it's never an accident when these people get caught. So when they take that bait, that's literally the tip of the iceberg. I mean, Warren Baker in San Antonio, he was sending dick pics to who he thought was a kid. And that's like he wasn't trying to meet up for sex with this purported kid or anything like that. I just confronted him at his job over the dick pics initially. And then that's
Now,
when he started talking
do
about
you
the
have to
God.
examine every dick pic yourself?
I mean, I see him, yeah,
Are you kind of like numb
but
to them at this point?
Oh yeah, very numb too. I've seen more dicks than porn stars at this point, man. But uh,
I don't
but
envy you.
yeah, no, but see, like just from that, I mean, it's no coincidence he was messaging our purported 13-year-old because now look, he admitted to molesting his stepdaughter. It's always a pattern with them. It's never their first time at the age of like 50, 52, what he was. And that's why I think these things are important because yeah, on its face, it's like, oh, you're on an over 18 profile, whatever. But you get told the age, and there has to be something fucked up with you if you can even if the 15-year-old that they're posing as is very just forward saying, I'm in the hotel room alone, come fuck me, blah 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 blah. You got to be fucked up to even go for that. Like I personally would never get entrapped by an underage sex ad ever, and I'm sure most people in here wouldn't either. But that's the thing.
I
They
agree.
get them on the tip of the iceberg, and then more shit comes out of that almost
Okay,
always.
let me ask you this. Okay, so what percentage of these guys would you estimate would not have otherwise ever engaged in any kind of uh, sexually predatory behavior with a child, but for your involvement?
Well, let me go through. Let me go through the list of our last 10. So we had Edward Bulmer in San Antonio. I don't know if he's bailed out yet, but he's in Bexar County Jail. If not, he admitted to molesting his own sister in Fort Worth a few years ago. Um, Warren Baker in San Antonio admitted to molesting his goddaughter, has not been arrested yet, but he will, I'm sure he will be very soon. We caught this guy, Jacob Kessler in Round Rock. This was a case where he was texting a real 14-year-old. She reached out to me. I guess she watches our channel, and I took over the chat. So that's obviously going after a real kid. Um, Juan Rios in Terrell, Texas, sex offender, admitted to molesting two of his cousins, one who is 4 years old, one who is 12. That's not what he was a sex offender for. That was completely separate from that. And he obviously, has molested real kids. Um, Raymond Walker, that's a guy we caught off a dating app in Terrell. He drove off from the Sting house. He has not been arrested yet. Um, you know, he might be the one. That might have been a first timer there. This nurse pedo who we caught, well, he
Wait, so
claimed
you
he was
said
a
that might
nurse.
have been a first timer. So that would be an example of somebody who it would be reasonable to surmise would not have otherwise committed any kind of sexually predatory act with a child if not for your involvement.
Well, we know he would. We know he would commit it. We know he
How
would
do you know
commit
that?
it if because he showed up at the Sting house. I mean, we didn't tell him it was a decoy account, but do I think Raymond Walker has any past victims? I do not think that. And then Jordan
Right,
Wells,
but he didn't have a pattern of doing that kind of thing until he encountered you.
but he organically found our profile. We told him the age. He was very careful. He wanted to I mean, he talked to this decoy on the phone for hours, making sure it was real. I mean, this wasn't some knee jerk like my dick's hard. I'm just going to come right now. He for hours was probing to make sure this was real. I mean, we all had to leave the house and just let the decoy be in the house to show she was home alone. I mean, this was calculated.
What did he like?
So he's
Did she
still
like give her like a video chat tour or something?
yes,
So
yes,
sorry, did she give him like a video chat tour of the house to show it's empty?
yes,
Okay,
yes. And
that's
then
funny.
Jordan Wells,
You didn't hide in the
he has no
closet or something?
no. We were just in the backyard just chilling. But yeah, Jordan Wells, he doesn't have any priors, but I do think he would mess with a kid. That dude was a pervert. Juan Rios, obviously, yeah, has messed with kids. I said it before. Tyler Wells, who we caught in Laurel, Montana, he's not been arrested yet, but his child porn tablet is currently seized. He was actually a tip we got from a supporter of ours. And funny enough, he was a tip we got, and he organically found our decoy account. Coincidence. He's been messaging people in his community saying that he's going to rape their daughters for years and consumes a lot of child porn. The next person is Ricky Brown in Sioux City, Iowa. Um, he didn't want to talk to us, but we're supposed to get him. He's a sex offender. Um,
Okay, let me ask you this. So over the course of the however many years you've been doing this, has there ever
yeah.
been a case where you thought to yourself, you know what, this guy might legitimately be a guy who it would be difficult to imagine committing an offense
Hmm.
if he hadn't encountered us or hadn't encountered you?
It's very rare, but there are those people. Now, however, when we put that net, when we put it, first of all, they still are committing an offense. They still have the intent to commit an offense. So just because I think they have no other victims or probably wouldn't molest their relative does not mean that they're not a danger to kids. Because if they came across a real kid on that app, which does happen, who knows what would have happened. But in that big net we put out, the people, it's so worth it to catch all of these people. And I don't really care that, and I can't even call them collateral because they are committing the offense. But if we're catching some really lower level guys who are not as dangerous to the other people we catch because we have
Can
the
you
net so
describe
high, then
those
that's
guys, like
okay.
the guys who might be collateral? Like, what's the basic profile of those guys? I understand that you're saying that they're a minority, it's maybe a small
Sure.
minority of the people that you've dealt with, but within that minority of guys, like sketch out their profile to me. Like, why is it that you could classify them as collateral?
Well, those are mostly the dating app people who are on the 18 plus apps. So that's why we try to, like I said earlier, we try to stay away from the dating apps because look, we have some really good pools off dating apps. I mean, one of our longest sentences, 131 years for Mark Mallow in San Antonio, Texas, or Converse, Texas, same county. He was a teacher. I guess he was on leave when we caught him. He was out on bond for child porn. When we caught him with child porn again and going after a 14-year-old decoy boy, he was off Grinder, and that was an insane pool to be off Grinder that we got. It is a life sentence, 131 years.
So
So
these guys who you're saying could be considered collateral because you found them on dating apps. Are you saying that in general they were not using the dating app because they wanted to procure an underage person? They were actually trying to maybe find an adult romantic partner, but ended up getting embroiled in the situation where maybe they were offered something underage, but they otherwise wouldn't have like actively pursued that.
likely there's likely a few of those, but I still maintain that anybody
Okay.
who goes for an underage decoy account is a danger to kids, just some less than others. I mean, we haven't caught him yet or anything, but 'cause we had to kind of wrap it up. But we were on one of the local apps in San Antonio, and over 18 app. This is an app where our age is showing on the profile. He hits us up. We say we're 13 years old, and he's immediately wants us to come into like this live stream he's doing. He's like smoking meth, calling us like baby girl. And he's just saying that his 13-year-old daughter comes in and sees him naked jacking off and stuff like that. So it's never an accident with these people, ever.
Okay. I guess if there are situations where a guy legitimately was on a dating app and was legitimately seeking romantic companionship or a hookup or whatever it might have been with an adult, and then ends up being encountering you and then gets drawn into something he wouldn't otherwise be disposed to do, that's a situation where I would have probably an ethical objection.
Well, sure, but if those people are occasionally going to get caught to get a Juan Rios or a Jeff Griswold or James McRander who is actively molesting a stepson in Jacksonville, Illinois, who's still in jail for that to this day, if getting those people who are kind of like borderline gets all those other people locked up, because we can't really, I mean, we could be pretty specific, but we can't just target people. We kind of have to put out a net no matter what. If those people get caught up in it because they're have that intent, even in that split second, to go after a kid, then so be it, man. I mean, pretty much, if you have full intent to just only date adults, you would not be messaging who you think is a kid. That's just plain and simple. Even though, yeah, even if you're a first timer, even if you're not looking for a kid, if there's truly just no intent to do it, you just wouldn't be doing it. It just comes down to that.
There's a famous saying in like in the annals of law, legal philosophy, that it's better for 10 guilty people to escape than for one innocent person to be wrongly imprisoned, essentially. So
I understand that, but they're not. They're not.
you can't tolerate in
Yeah, I
in like an Anglosphere legal system innocent people getting wrongly um, uh, convicted, essentially, or entrapped or cajoled into illegal behavior, because it's better for 10 guilty people to go free than to do that to an innocent person. I guess
well,
that's sort of roughly consistent with what my attitude is on this stuff. So if I
see,
hear you saying that you find it to be justified, that there was this quote collateral damage because it served some higher purpose in your mind, I would still have to voice an ethical objection to that.
Well, that's the thing. I mentioned collateral, but I kind of refrained from saying that it is collateral because they're not. I agree. One innocent is more important than 10 guilty or whatever, but they're not innocent. They're just less guilty than the other people. Like, yeah, some guy off a dating app is probably, I'd rather have him walking around than a Juan Rios or Jeff Griswold or whatever. I can name all these people that I think are really, really bad. But no, they're still getting caught because they met up with a underage who they had full intention to meet
When
up with
those
an
guys
underage
meet up
kid
with
for
underage,
sex.
when you say those guys on the dating apps who might be considered collateral but maybe are still guilty, they're liaising with an underage person. Are they liaising with 11, 12, 13-year-olds, or is it like just below the age of consent?
I would consider them more.
So it's like a
Man,
17. Is it they thought that they were talking to maybe an 18 or 19-year-old. It turns out to be a 17-year-old. Is it something like that, or is it more extreme where it ends up being an 11-year-old or something?
No, we don't waste our time posing as like 16 or 17. I mean,
Okay.
I'm not saying that it makes it okay to do that, but it is still a resource thing. Like, but no, on the dating apps, I guess this recent time we no. So Jordan Wells was going after 14. Raymond Walker was going after 13. No, on the day. We're still going young on the dating apps. Like, we're not,
Okay. I guess I'm just trying to sort of conceptually distinguish between the guys who you would counter who are generally repeat habitual offenders, meaning they have a track record where they
Right,
have indisputably harmed children. And by you catching them, you're putting a stop to their ability to continue harming children. So that's one
right.
category. And there's another category where it's guys who would not have otherwise been disposed or motivated enough or uh, in a situation where they would actually go out of their way to harm children, but because they get embroiled with you, they can be accused of harming children. I think those are important kind of like conceptual distinctions. So I would object much more to the latter category than the former category. Is that fair?
It is fair, but we know somebody's not going to harm children if they just don't go after our profile. So when I refer to the dating app guys, maybe that's their first time coming across someone underage online, but now we at least know those people, if they were to come across a real 13-year-old, we know how they would handle it. So it's basically a preemptive it's a preemptive stoppage to what would be an activity. It might be a more obscure scenario. It might not be their sister or their daughter or whatever, but it's still stopping an activity that now we know, since they did go to meetups, since Raymond Walker did show up at the Sting House, we know he would do that. So no, there's still a danger. I mean, I don't think it's fair to say otherwise wouldn't have done it, but this goes to show you that if it was a real kid, they otherwise would have done it. It just has to be on a dating app or a little bit, the scenarios are different.
Because I'll give you like an analogy, right? So I mentioned that I have objected to what I consider to be entrapment situations
right,
in a wide variety of legal contexts above and beyond the child sex predator stuff. So it seems very plausible, and actually courts sort of ruled to this effect eventually, at least in terms of certain defendants. It's very plausible that the so-called right-wing extremists who were
uh,
accused of conspiring to kidnap the governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, they would
right.
not have been in a position where they could even be accused of doing that, most likely, if not for the involvement of like undercover FBI assets and so forth, or confidential human sources, or what have you. So I object to a situation where the government, or perhaps even a private actor, but definitely the government, insinuates itself into a situation where there's no crime that could be cognizable or that could be reasonably seen as imminent, and then takes action to facilitate essentially the manufacturing of the crime. And so that's where I object to entrapment, because you're taking over action to bring about a crime that would not have otherwise come about but for your overt action. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying on that. I do agree. I do agree with the whole Gretchen Whitmer thing, but swiping right and coming across a kid is a lot more practical and a lot more feasible than just finding some FBI agent online to go kidnap the governor. I mean, that's just a totally out of left field thing. And yeah, I agree. The FBI should not have done that. But anybody can swipe right. I mean, I can probably go say I just buy like, whatever premium dating app bullshit is on there, and I just have unlimited swipes. Eventually I'll come across probably a real underage kid. And that's what we're trying to stop.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you think that one of the justifications for sting operations, or one of the justifications I remember for the original To Catch a Predator show, was that it would produce a deterrent effect, meaning people would see that this was going on, and if they had even the slightest inclination to potentially attempt to sexually propositions a minor on the internet, they would be dissuaded from doing so because they saw the TV show and it informed them about what kind of trouble they could get into.
Yeah.
Do you see any evidence that what you've been doing, or even what the government did in this Nevada situation, is actually producing a deterrent effect? I mean, is it dissuading people from genuinely victimizing children who might have otherwise been inclined to, or is there no discernible deterrent effect at all, and that's actually not an outcome from these operations?
Man, these people are so fucked up and sick in the head that I'm sure it does deter some of them, absolutely. But most of them, no. These people have such a motor for children. Like, I compare it to the Energizer Bunny. You put them in jail, the Energizer Bunny's going to keep going. Then it gets released from jail and it's going to keep going. No, there's no deterrent. Jail is not a deterrent for these people. That's why they all need to be shot and killed. But no, we had a guy we caught recently, Nathan Binkley, in Sebring, Ohio. I believe the FBI is taking his case up, so he has not been charged yet. But he produced 2 SD cards full of child pornography. When we talked to him, and obviously now the SD cards are in police custody, but Nathan Binkley was an Instagram follower of mine. He watches my channel. He knows my name. He's like Alex Rosen when I went to go confront him. He still talked to me, confessed to all this child porn. Of course, he's a sex offender. So the registry was not a deterrent for him. A year in jail on his first offense was not a deterrent for him. Him knowing who I am, I kid you not, dude, he linked one of our catch videos to the decoy in the chats and still went forward with it. No, it just goes to show you.
To Catch a, it was like, I think it might have been the first or second To Catch a Predator episode ever, when the guy, it was like, what was it? His username was like Special Guy 25 or something like that. You know what I'm talking about? Where he shows up.
I'm not too sure, but
he shows up naked to the decoy house.
Yeah, okay, I've seen that. Yeah,
and then the next day he shows up again doing McDonald's to do the exact same thing.
Dude, there is no
he's wearing an Operation Iraqi Freedom T-shirt. I remember that.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. That's why it's so important that we keep doing these sting operations, because there's just no deterrent for them at all, and they straight up just need to be caught. I mean, my God, we caught a guy. Oh my God, Juan Rios was just released from jail in February of this year, and I asked him, how do they treat in Dallas County? Were you in general population, or were you in protective custody? He's like, general population. I'm like, how was it? He's like, oh, it sucked. And dude, less than 6 months after getting released, he tries to go have sex with another 11-year-old kid. It's unfucking believable.
So what is your take on Epstein and Trump? Changing the subject a little bit, I'm curious, like in terms of the themes we've been drawing on here.
Yeah,
this obviously is a little bit beyond your personal experience, but what is your sort of general take?
Oh man, I mean, I didn't vote in 2024. I'm very right wing. I'm a right wing extremist for sure, but I didn't vote in 2024 because Trump is way too buddy with Epstein, and I knew the list was not going to be released. It's all just bullshit. And,
oh, really? So you say you're a right wing extremist. I'm sort of curious how you define that. But in any event,
actually right wing.
You declined to vote for Trump because you thought that he was too buddy with Epstein, or he wouldn't actually disclose Epstein materials.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was more so like, not more so like Epstein vaccine, and then him adding a lot to the debt also. Like, I'm pretty fiscally conservative. So, but anyway, as for the Epstein thing,
you agree with Musk?
Well, I mean, I don't know how much we align, but I mean, I mean,
your
definitely
when it
comes to the Doge stuff, for sure, I agree with them. But No, I mean, if you watch Trump's interview before the election, will you release the JFK files? Yeah, I'll release them. Will you release the MLK files? Yeah, I'll do that. Will you release the Epstein files? Oh,
Yeah,
maybe I'll
this was him
look.
on some Fox News, like it was sort of a
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah. You know the clip
Yeah,
I'm talking about
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So, I mean,
And
then
that put you off. That disenchanted you.
yeah, and then RFK too. He had
Did
an
you vote for
interview with
Trump
Jesse.
in the prior elections?
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, I'm 25, so I couldn't vote in 2016. I was in high school, but
Okay,
2020, I voted for Trump. Yeah.
okay. And were you like satisfied with that vote, or were you getting alienated from Trump even after 2020? Or
Well,
were you
so
enthusiastic about Trump at any point?
I think 2016 to 2020, I liked him a
Because you
lot.
voted for Trump after Epstein died in the custody of the Trump Department of Justice. Right?
Yeah, but I was naive enough to think that even though
Okay.
Trump's guys are running the government, that Hillary that Hillary somehow was able to sneak someone into the prison just under Trump's nose. Yeah, I was naive to think that Trump's just so helpless and just they're all after him and all this shit. Um, but yeah, no, 2021 when he was still pushing the vaccine is when I became like, what the fuck are we doing here? And um, yeah, no, I was
So what
off
is
the
your
Trump
best what
train
is
by
your
then.
best what is your best assessment as to why Trump is taking the attitude that he's taking right now with respect to Epstein? Like he says, it's a hoax, it's bullshit. He's aggressively dismissive of it. What's your best interpretation of why
Well,
he's taking the attitude that he is?
well, I asked Thomas Massey that on a space earlier today. It was cool to just
Oh,
ask him a
really?
question. Yeah, he thinks that man, what is well, I guess I didn't really ask with I guess I more so asked him why Congress people are afraid to go against Trump on this. And he's more so it's just like a donor thing and they don't want to they don't want to like be alienated from Trump, which all right. But no, I really think it's the most simple explanation. I think him or his fucking very close friends are on that list, straight up.
Well, we know that Trump. I mean, so you think there is like one consolidated client list that like Kash Patel, who's the FBI director, or Pam Bondi, who's now the Attorney General, they're continuing to conceal like a consolidated client list that lists individual
Um,
prominent people, maybe including Donald Trump, who are implicated in Epstein's child sex trafficking operation. Is that what you're saying?
well, no, I don't think it's as simple as there's like a phone book of everybody that just did shit with the kid on Epstein's Island. However, in all the files, do I think there's at least one person who's in a position of power that is either Trump or Trump's friend, at least just one who's implicated criminally in those files? Absolutely. So I'm just asking for one arrest to happen. Then we can worry about the rest. But I don't even think one arrest will happen. And that's yeah, no, but as for just like, is there just like a list they're just hiding? That's all the names? Probably not, but there is at least one person who's done some criminal shit to kids that they can arrest and indict right now, and they're not doing it, and that's
Well,
the problem.
When Cash Patel, the current FBI director, when he was a private citizen, he would be going on podcasts and Rumble and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
and saying
yeah.
there was a list. He's saying he accused the previous FBI director, Christopher Wray, of having a list of pedophiles that he was concealing. So it's not like there were any lack of prominent people who were in fact saying that there was just such a list, including the current FBI director, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, and the whole thing with the whole thing that like, oh, but the Biden admin is the one that destroyed it. I'm like, well, who is the president before Joe Biden? It makes no sense to me.
That would be Donald J. Trump, I believe. I
Right,
have a bit of a
exactly.
different take on Epstein, I guess, maybe than you. I've done a lot of, I followed the issue intermittently for maybe the past decade when I first saw that. After I first saw Virginia Roberts Giuffre's motion for joinder that she filed in 2014 when she accused by name Alan Dershowitz and Prince Andrew of having been two of the prominent people to whom she had been allegedly sex trafficked as a minor. And then she also named a whole category of unspecified people like foreign princes and prime ministers and so forth. So I've been following it since around that time, but I've done, an extremely deep dive, let's say, and I've done a bunch of articles and a bunch of podcasts and so forth since, especially early July. And I got to say, and this might be a controversial statement. Actually, I'm sure it will be, but my basic take now is that roughly 90% of what people think that they confidently believe about the Epstein story, broadly construed, there's many kind of dimensions and elements and loose ends and so forth, but around 90% of what people think that they stridently confidently believe about the Epstein story is basically bullshit. And then there's another 10% that is more legitimate, meaning Epstein did, procure girls in the Palm Beach area who were teenagers, some of whom were above the age of consent, some of whom were below. The girls kind of recruited one another. They were advised by one another to potentially even lie about their age if they were underage. Of course, that's no excuse for a man in his 50s,
Right.
legally. So that's the legitimate 10%. Epstein did have like a weird sort of ideology around the permissibility of post-pubescent females to be accessible to men if they're of childbearing age. It was like kind of a a kind of creepy worldview. So that's a legitimate 10%. But all these fanciful theories people have had about pedo, sex trafficking, rings, and blackmail, and girls are being furnished to all these prominent politicians and academics and business leaders and so forth to orchestrate this whole blackmail thing, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of that has been hugely exaggerated and is usually not very tethered to the facts in my experience. And a lot of the key accusers have huge credibility problems, and some of them totally destroy their credibility completely. And I can go on forever about this, but that's my basic conclusion. So I'm just curious, like, do you think I'm automatically under like extreme suspicion for having come to that conclusion, or you think that's a conclusion that could be reasonably come to through like journalistic inquiry, which is what I've done?
No, I think it could be reasonably come to with the information that's out there, but um, what I look at is I think they're showing stuff that it was like a hand job from a 15-year-old. I'm not saying that's okay, obviously, but clearly molesting babies is a little bit more severe than that, and by a little bit I mean a lot. And
Sure. And
I,
there's no
I
allegation
think
of that with Epstein.
I understand, but I think it's just the tip of the iceberg stuff they're showing. Like they're trying to just show that hey, it was just teenagers because I think there's a lot more that went on behind the scenes there. The pure speculation on my part, but if I can catch all these people, I can. Well, I'm not gonna say I really my team. It's a team effort. If our team can catch all these people who are regularly into babies, into 4-year-olds, into toddlers, into all this stuff, you're telling me that like just the elites were or our hard line was 14 years old? Absolutely not. Being into all this weird shit. Well, it's all weird, but being into all this like purely just shit you think you can't even imagine is sadly very common with the people we get.
Well,
And I
just
think
so you know, I mean, I'm not going to say I'm like the nation's leading Epstein expert, but I've done an extraordinary amount of research and reporting on it at this point.
right,
And I've
right,
never seen the slightest hint of evidence anywhere ever that's at all credible that there were babies or truly young children who were even alleged to have been preyed upon. It's almost exclusively, to the extent that there are minors who were said to have been victimized by Epstein or potentially his confederates. It's almost exclusively, or it is exclusively that I know of, and that's backed by any credible evidence at all. It's teenage girls. So like the main, the accuser who introduced this whole idea of a child sex trafficking um, ring was Virginia Giuffre, who would have been approximately 17 at the time that
right,
she encountered any sexual, claimed sexual victimization with Epstein. And when Epstein did have to plead guilty in Florida to 2 state level charges as a result of a federal non-prosecution agreement, he pled guilty to solicitation of prostitution, which was for adults,
right,
and procurement of a minor for prostitution. And the minor was a 17-year-old. That was the minor who was identified and who Epstein admitted that he had procured for prostitution. So we're not talking about babies here. I'm not saying it's correct. I'm not saying I agree with the behavior, but
right.
it's worth making the distinction.
Well, no, I understand, but on the other hand, I can also just point. I'm just saying Juan's name over and over again because he was like just a
Sure.
couple days ago. But I can look to Juan Rios and say, well, as far as I know, he's only looked at images online. But lo and behold, when he comes to the Sting house, now he molested 2 of his cousins, and he communicated that to the decoy mom in the chats too. He went into more detail about who they were in the Sting house and everything. So it's like just from what's on paper is different from what's probably actually happened. And I say that with all these fuckers. Like, for example, we have all the time, we have like, oh, they get a charge for sending a dick pic to a minor. And then, sometime later, one of their relatives reaches out or somebody else reaches out saying, oh, he did this to me when I was this age. And they never get charged for it. So that's what I'm thinking is with Epstein too. They got him on like the least severe kid charge you can get him on. And I think that's to mask what actually happened. But that's my speculation. I do not have proof of that, but I just have other examples of that happening to where, we know what's in front of us, but there ends up being so much more to it.
Yeah, let me just say, I think most sane people agree, or at least should agree. I know I agree that when it comes to genuine pedophilic predation of genuine children, that's objectively horrendous. Anybody who's like, has any rational faculties should realize that's a huge problem and should be, if there's any inkling that it's going on, action should be taken to put a stop to it. So I'm all on board with that, right? My problem is whether it's with respect to the Epstein situation or with respect to some of these sting operations that are going on. My problem is when that very natural impulse people have to protect bona fide children from bona fide sexual predators kind of gets manipulated or exploited and used to foment a kind of mass hysteria or even moral panic, and gets used to like abridge civil liberties. I've always been a huge civil libertarian, so I don't like empowering the government to curtail the constitutional liberties of citizens on like trumped up grounds. And when you whip up a mass hysteria, often what happens is that the government does arrogate powers to itself to curtail civil liberties, and I'm virtually always against that in every context, whether it's free speech, whether it's uh, the right against warrantless search and seizure, whether it's the right to confront your accuser at trial. These are constitutional rights, and I support preserving those rights because it's one of the things that I actually appreciate about being an American. Not to get all schmaltzy and patriotic, but we are. If you're an American citizen, you are endowed with these rights, right? And the government always has some interest in corroding them in the interest of expanding their own power. So I'm against that, and I do think that this what I call pedo hysteria. I'm not accusing you of that necessarily, but there's an element, especially on the internet, right, where there's clearly on some level, there's clearly a level on which a lot of people like kind of almost psychically crave like a constant supply of pedo hysteria, meaning not they wouldn't be hysterical to actually want to protect bona fide children from bona fide sexual predation, but they want to also concoct these sprawling theories around elite pedo sex trafficking, whatever, or they want to like agitate for government agents to go on what probably is a mostly adult serving app and maybe see if they can entrap somebody because it would just like it's always satisfying to maybe nail some quote unquote pedo. So in other words, there's a lot of downstream or second order, I think, negative ramifications from just allowing some of this pedo hysteria to proliferate unfettered. And notwithstanding my agreement that when there is an actual threat of legitimate sexual misconduct that's being perpetrated on actual children, I agree with, as do all sane adults, that should be prevented. I just think sometimes things get a little out of hand, and there's a sort of a mass hysteria or a moral panic that has some of these negative ramifications that I just find myself having to object to. I don't know. Is that unreasonable? Do you think?
It's not unreasonable, but I would just say to that, you would not be a quote unquote victim or quote unquote collateral of this moral panic if you just did not if you just ceased to message a profile that ended up telling you they were underage. I mean, it's just very simple to not get caught up in it. I mean, it's just yeah, just say no to it. I mean, it's just it's just so easy.
With respect to Epstein, and not to get too fixated on Epstein, which I'm prone to do, I'll admit, but with respect to Epstein, when they talk about Epstein victims or Epstein survivors, like these people are always on the media. I just saw today that Breaking Points, which is a show that I've occasionally go on, and I generally like the people who host the show. But just today, they did a segment having to do with the quote unquote Epstein survivor, and they showed like a clip of the supposed Epstein survivor giving her testimony, right? So this Epstein quote unquote survivor, her name is Sarah Ransom. She was 22 years old when she encountered Epstein. She was actually an escort, meaning she engaged in transactional sex activities. So it's engaged in consensual sex activity in exchange for money. And then she got tied in with Epstein. She did go to the U.S. Virgin Islands, and then years later, she started recasting everything that she experienced as quote unquote trafficking. And that entitled her to lots of settlement money, because even though she was an adult at the time of her claimed sexual victimization, per the terms of these settlement funds, she was still eligible for potentially millions and millions of dollars in payouts. So that's an example of where stuff gets conflated, stuff gets inaccurately represented, especially in the media, especially among politicians. And I think it feeds into a frenzy that is very distorting. And I feel not enough effort is made to kind of correct some of those misrepresentations. So that's part of where I'm coming from with Epstein stuff.
I mean, yeah, I hear you on that one individual thing. I don't think a 22, unless she was coerced into it, I don't think a 22-year-old is a victim of any sexual stuff. That is, unless like, gun to your head or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, as for the whole pedo hysteria thing, I think the fact that we have 360 busts in 15 months. I think, and we could have more. I mean, at some point, I just have to come home sometimes and come on a space or whatever, and give my people some time off. But if we just went every day full capacity, I mean, we'd have over one a day. I mean, we could easily be doing 400 of these a year if we truly wanted to. And that's just me. That's just me and this very small team. In retrospect. So I don't know. I think it's sadly very common, and that doesn't mean like be paranoid. It doesn't mean like just hide under your fucking blankets 24/7.
Do you ever worry about overly empowering the state, overly empowering law enforcement or the government to take aggressive prosecutorial action in a manner that could potentially injure civil liberties? But because there's such a consensus out there about the need to always be going after child sex predators, which again, I agree with in terms of bona fide victimization of children, but in terms of how stuff can potentially get misused or manipulated, or the remit of what the government purports to be going after can be expanded. Is there? Do you would you grant that there's any danger there that people are right to be wary of in terms of potentially overly empowering the government on the ground of supposedly combating child sex trafficking, but then they, for example, engage in unconstitutional search and seizure tactics, or maybe entrapment tactics, or other sorts of actions which a reasonable person who considers themselves a civil libertarian might have reason to object to?
I mean, with the pedo stuff, I mean, the only reason their devices get seized is because there's either a probable cause or a warrant. I mean, it's in the case where it's a warrant, it's most likely say AT&T or something detects child porn coming to that or their ISP detects child porn coming to their IP address or something like that. So I don't know. I can't really see. I still just think if you're not fucking with child shit, you'll be fine on that front. I mean, like obviously.
Well, we agree that it's a bad idea to even come close to getting yourself
right. It all comes down to, if you just don't fuck with child shit, you'll be fine. Now, other stuff the government can do with surveillance and stuff. Yeah, you might be screwed if you just have a certain opinion on things, but with this, it's just pretty cut and dry. Like, you have nothing to worry about if you're just not fucking with child shit. And
well, I have people on the internet 24/7 now because of my take on Epstein, or because of my take on this Israeli guy, which I really do maintain is journalistic. I mean, you could criticize my journalistic approach. That's fine. I'll debate anybody. Like, you commanded me to come on to debate you tonight, and I did it. But yeah, no, I think imputing me with foul motives is just, it's like, it happens constantly now, where everybody wants to assume or imply or sometimes just outright assert that what I'm really secretly darkly motivated by is my own sexual depravity. Like I'm a secret pedo. Check my hard drive, all this crap, which I'm sure you're well aware of. And like, of course it's not true, but like I can never convince anybody of that because it's what they want to use to discredit my political arguments or my journalistic arguments. Right?
Well, that's the thing. One, that's between you and them. Two,
no, I know. I'm not blaming you.
No, I know, but two, that's just people's opinions on you from what you're saying. Now, I don't think it's ever going to get to a point where you're going to be where your devices are going to be seized or where you're like, get your door kicked down.
Because there'd be no basis to it all. I mean, if I actually was a secret pedophile, don't you think I would kind of lay low and maybe not engage with some of this stuff in public? Maybe not. Oh, well, forget it. I retract. I don't even want to get into it. Hey, so Alex, I actually found this. I found this pretty interesting. It was more informative, really, for me than even a debate. I'm sure we disagree on some stuff, but I don't know. I enjoyed it. What did you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Good timing too, because I have to get going here in the next 2 minutes.
Yeah. So, you sent me your phone number, right?
I did.
Okay, I'll text you, and let me know when you're coming to New Jersey. Maybe a week. As far in advance as you can, and I'd be curious to come meet you and watch how it all goes down.
I estimate I'll be there either September 6th or September 9th, depending.
Okay.
So I have a trial in Pennsylvania on September 8th, so I'm either going to do it the day after or a few days before.
Okay, sounds good. I will make a note of that, and I'll text you once we hang up here. But yeah, let's. I think this is a good place to wrap up.
Yeah, man. Good conversation. Thanks for coming on.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
All right. We'll let a few speakers up before I get out of here.
If you're going to bring up some speakers, I'll stay on just in case they evoke me.
Okay.
Let's give it like maybe a 10 or 15 minute limit or something. Something reasonable.
All right. Yeah, guys, the Michael Tracey shit talk hour is not happening quite yet. It's still going to be on, y'all.
I know you guys all wanted to trash talk me behind my back, but I'm staying around.
Yeah.